entrepreneurs and businesses that are at the head of their field and to allow them to establish connections through our matchmaking. There are a lot of challenges generated by the pandemic, and we'll talk about them, but then we'll talk about how technology has allowed us to thrive despite these problems. Let me introduce Ileana Benitez, CEO of Vertex Studio, interactive experiences and video games producers. They use AR, VR, augmented and virtual reality, and they like to create innovative products for health and education in Central America. Today's session will be in Spanish.
Click on the button at the bottom of the window. Oh, and questions. There will be questions at the end. If you have any questions, make sure to share them with us. Si tienen preguntas, compártanlas con nosotros en el chat y al final.
If you have questions, please post them through the chat, and if we have time at the end, we will have Ileana respond them. Thank you very much for being with us, Ileana. You have the floor. Good morning. Greetings from El Salvador. It's a bit foggy here today, we were saying at the beginning, but it's a nice day. It's a pleasure to be with you and be able to share with you some of the experience that I've acquired in the last 4 years working in virtual and augmented reality. And we're going through a special time right now. And I say it's a magical time because we didn't know what was going to happen with AR and VR, what kind of hardware or device we were going to be using it, or how people would want to connect. But you may have heard or read that Facebook in 2014 acquired Oculus. And that's when all this innovation started, because we were now thinking that the era of social VR was approaching. And today we'll talk about how all of this can help us with our companies and our startups. And the pandemic has laid bare many needs that we had in education and health in some countries more than other. I'm thinking about Latin America now, especially and particularly in Central America. And now is a time to adopt technology that will allow us to reach more people much more quickly. For example, with virtual reality teams, you can train your employees, or you can create an educational model for your internal clients who work with you, or for the public in general. In education, you can provide virtual classes. It really is magical that now with these virtual reality viewers, we can have a class and we can have a teacher from Japan or from Australia teaching us. And we have 10, 20 students in the same virtual area taking the class together, sharing experiences, and taking this class within the same world, in the same environment. So there's a special characteristic that virtual reality must have. It must be immersive. It must give the user the feeling that they have been transported into another dimension. And for that, it needs to be multiplayer. If it's a game, for example, well, let's think how these processes work, how people use the games, and then we try to make them automatic and take them to industry. This means that it will be much more fun and much more dynamic as an experience. So special features, well, that's where my creative team comes in, or where I come in as an entrepreneur to really think about it hard, so I can provide content that really provides that feeling of immersiveness, and also that brings in other people, that it's multiplayer. And in terms of augmented reality, I can also say that this is a great opportunity for business. Virtual reality For example, if you want to buy a headset now and when you can reserve one that same day, they run out, because now that we're staying home, that's how we can feel closer to our loved ones and to our friends that are far away. Facebook last year launched at its Oculus convention a virtual 3D world where it's as if you're in a park and you can there interact with other people. So I saw that as the beginning of social VR. For AR, for augmented reality, it's ideal really for businesses, and it can turn into your office. You can have your office in your cell phone. And with AR, you can sell this experience to your clients as well. For example, I can scan the logo of a product, and with the camera, an interactive augmented reality experience can be activated. And when this ends, I hope after this pandemic, some companies will begin to innovate. And when you see an ad or a sign for a company, you can then see and have on your cell phone some kind of interactive experience, and see how we can combine also entertainment with knowledge. So VR and AR solutions are something that can add a lot of value added to our companies and to the services that we offer. If you could share the video, please. For a year now in El Salvador, we've been working with the IDB and a nursing school in El Salvador. We've been working on processes, uh, births, for example, services for newborns. These services can be offered virtually, since it's now hard to go there in person. So we can train the staff, and VR becomes a strategic partner in the education of this staff. It doesn't mean that this is going to replace actual hands-on practice, but some of the training can be done through VR. And this can be a great strategic partner for education. If you could go back and show that again, what we're looking at is a virtual reality lab where the student puts on their visor, their virtual reality viewer, and they look at this. This is what they see, and they see it in real time. What could be better? We also can design it in such a way that they can have a test. When you are going through testing, for example, you can make mistakes as many times as you want, because you can take the test as many times as you want until you know the material 100%. So what are the benefits of this? Well, we accelerate the learning process, and we improve the quality of the education that we are providing. We are training better staff. I have students who are better informed and better trained, because they used to not be able to really practice until they were actually practicing on a person. So what we're trying to do is to make all those mistakes before, when you're using virtual reality, and not make those mistakes when you're already dealing with people. So in this case, we see the pandemic as an opportunity to accelerate these processes within our own institutions. And this is part of the digital transformation of automatization. It doesn't mean that, thank you, Itzel, for the video. It doesn't mean that we should be afraid that we're going to be ruled by robots. No, how can we become strategic partners to improve our industry? Currently in El Salvador, people ask us about all kinds of automatization of different elements, and this is a process, and we need to define within our organizations how we're going to get started, where we will start, where the competitive advantage will be in accelerating this process, and then go on to the next priorities of what we want to change. But we're just talking about health here, but this will be useful in education as well. Many universities are already using these processes. If we are studying for a master's degree in Spain or in the US, we had to travel 2 weeks for a graduation ceremony, but now we can be present there virtually in real time for instruction and for the graduation. So what we need for this, of course, in all countries is broadband internet access. We cannot have connectivity issues. So here the governments play a major role. What kind of decisions will they make to accelerate these processes instead of dragging behind them all the same flaws and defects that they had before in the system? I don't want to have a monologue. I'm sorry, I'm a talker, but I really want to see what questions you have, what you'd like to hear about from me, and then we'll see what else we can talk about. So it's not just me talking at you. No, of course not. That video you showed us was really impressive. I think in these times of pandemics, it's like the future caught up with us, and perhaps we were not all ready for it. So what is the main concern that you have felt coming from these institutions or organizations that say, hey, we want to automate all these things? What do you think is perhaps the main obstacle that they have in this process? What is preventing them from taking the next step? Well, the main concern is, how do I train my people? Because I can't bring them all here. Perhaps industries with 200 staff. How can I bring everyone together? We can't do it because of the need for social distancing. So let's say you're packing products. Well, then you need some automatic way of doing it, so you don't need to have the people there. So you first need to conduct a study, define where you need to begin. If it's an industry where, for example, if the company is manufacturing plastic bags, for example, and you need a lot of people for that, a lot of employees. So the question is, what robots can I bring in that can take care of these processes more quickly and just need supervision from human talent? Then you need to train that human talent, those human resources from home. You need to develop their soft skills such that when, well, technical and soft skills, of course, but I think after this pandemic, we will have realized that emotional intelligence is also very important. So how can we also dovetail this with the use of machines? And this is all crucial for successful automatization.
What you said about soft skills is very interesting, because you wouldn't really think. You see automation coming and you say, okay, I need to start coding, learn coding, programming. So tell us a little more why you think that emotional intelligence and soft skills are even more important now with this whole wave of automation. Because remote learning, telework, it means that there can be, it's a matter of communication. If communication is poor, our results will be poor. Sometimes people aren't able to properly express what they want, what they need, so it's, you lose communication down that chain, and everyone's at home. Being with the same people every day can affect your mental health. So that is where it is crucial for that companies also work on these things so our outcomes are good. And when you reach the stage where you want to start automation, it's not rejected, because what often happens is that people will tell you that won't work, that doesn't work well. And it's because they're afraid to learn something new. So how do you add that security when it comes to people's uncertainty over what will happen once automation arrives? Right. Change management, how do you manage that? Another question from our audience is, do you think that with the current growth in augmented and virtual reality in over 18 industries that the visor price will actually come down so that people are able to use it as if it were a cell phone? For example, if you were able to go to any store and buy the visor or the goggles, what do you think about that? Can I talk about brands? I'm not sure, but sometimes I'm not allowed to. I think a year ago, it was all very uncertain. What's the best visor? It was Oculus competing with HTC and Carbo. So when Facebook acquired Oculus, I think that really defines what Oculus is, and Oculus is best positioned as far as quality and price. Oculus Quest, I really recommend that. It's about $300, so it's cheaper than a high quality cell phone. So these are going to be Christmas gifts this year. That's what Santa's going to bring people. But if you go to the Oculus website and you look at the Oculus Quest and you say it's $300, you say, oh, I can actually buy that. And sometimes, though, they're up for pre-order. You pre-order and it won't be there for a month. So you won't get it for a month. So it's being sold in such a massive fashion that these things are happening. So even for work, we've had to pre-order. I have 3 Oculus visors coming to the US and to be shipped to El Salvador due to the pandemic, and we need them for our work. The Oculus Quest, I believe, is one of the best ones when it comes to quality and price. And other businesses are making accessories, so you'll no longer need controls, rather you'll put gloves on with sensors in them. So this is going to become a lot smoother smoother when it comes to picking some up, putting something down. Things will become more sensitive. So I think that is what the current situation is. Next year, 2021, that's what it's going to be about. That's really interesting. You've been talking about the infrastructure and the role of governments to make sure that the infrastructure exists in order to support this evolution of virtual reality. And there's a question about that here, which is, do you think we need to wait until 5G is a reality in order for AR and VR technology to be wide-reaching? And or once 5G arrives, will your technology have to change? We need to start that now, because in El Salvador, I must say it, we're working with LTE. We don't even have 4G. So how are we going to be able to develop this? Servers, our machines with graphics cards that would support running a program. I was saying in the beginning that on Tuesday the 28th, we are going to launch a virtual reality lab with a nursing school together with the IDB, and I'm going to take the chance and try live streaming this. So we are going to have a nurse within a virtual scenario. The nurse will be within a world, a hospital environment, an ER, and will be working in that environment. So we're going to stream that live. That's something we do as entrepreneurs. We invent, we create, we look for solutions. We can't wait for 5G to get here, but when it comes, just like the pandemic came, we need to be ready. We can't sit around and wait and see what happens. And obviously, governments will have an important role. I'm not involved directly in that area in my country. I don't know what will happen with connectivity, but I know that it's being worked on, and the idea is to have that process happen faster, but we need to make that leap. Why go through 4G if we could go straight to 5G? Don't just wait for this to happen. We need to wait. We need to be reborn now. You're mute. You're on mute. So when 5G comes, you'll make the changes you need to. That's a good problem to have, right? Right, we'll deal with that when it comes. You've talked about the health industry quite a bit, but what other areas in what other areas have you been able to implement projects that are relevant, and perhaps other businesses in different sectors that want to purchase services to help them automate their services or make them faster? What kind of certifications do those providers need, or what features do virtual reality and augmented reality companies need to have? What would you recommend? Well, when we have committee meetings, and people will say if they don't understand SAP, don't sell to them, because they won't understand what they actually need, because everything right now is happening very fast. You need to have a team who is willing to embrace change in their infrastructure. They're going to have to make a significant investment. This is technology, and technology is expensive. So don't limit yourselves. Businesses shouldn't limit themselves and say, no, I'm going to invest in something else. No, the infrastructure is crucial. You need that so that then you can implement your processes, because if you don't have the right infrastructure, you'll get halfway there and your results will not be what you would desired. If you have a computer at your business, you might need computers that cost $3,000, $2,000, $3,000, because you need graphics cards, you need other things I'm not able to get in El Salvador, and I'm trying to bring things in from other countries, and that is a limiting factor. So that's why I'm highlighting infrastructure, hardware. We need these things. We need more hardware sales in Central America. We need to have more access to it so that we can create these kinds of solutions to make things virtual.
Tú dirías, porque hay mucha, como dices tú, hay mucha...
Like you said, some people are resistant and will say, no, this is going to take away our jobs. But then you have a lot of people who have a great appetite for this and who want to jump right in. Do you think that there are industries that are better positioned to leverage the potential of VR and AR more than other industries, or would this benefit all industries equally? You'd need to identify what technology you need, virtual reality or augmented reality. So if you're a smaller business and you have a lot of products, then maybe augmented reality would be the solution and not so much virtual reality. It is important for organizations to either hire or have a team with entrepreneurial mindsets, because these people will either make decisions or will point out new paths to you, talk about what could potentially be done. And as I said in the beginning, it's painful sometimes making those decisions, but if you don't make those decisions, you die. So it is important to have leaders in an organization with an entrepreneurial mindset. And this is the chance to include women on your teams. We, I think, have humanization as a part of our DNA, and we are able to make decisions in that regard, sometimes a bit faster. People who are a bit older are sometimes more resistant, but that's where you need an entrepreneurial mindset in order to do business. We have another question. People are asking, what learning resources would you recommend for people who want to get started in the VR world? Udacity, etc. What would you recommend? First, you need to be self-taught. You need to be be willing to learn on your own. That will give you a competitive advantage. There are very few people worldwide who know how to use a real engine, and that's where movies are being made and video games. Fortnite, which is produced by Epic Games, is made on real graphics that are powerful, they're high quality, and they run in real time. I'm going to tell you a bit of a story because I think this is interesting. In El Salvador, we have an animation and 3D art department. So they looked for a different provider in El Salvador who provided 3D art, but they wanted someone to work on a real engine. No one else. We were the only ones working on a real engine. We were given that contact information. They saw a demo, and in 5 seconds, we had to show that we were able to execute what they needed. And we did this. When we were given this project, we realized that this was for it was a contract for the Game of Thrones video game. So these are opportunities that if they come up, you need to be ready to pounce on them. I invite your teams to develop mathematical skills, mathematical and linear skills. Sometimes it's easier to turn a math teacher into a programmer than to teach a programmer math. So you need to take a look at the abilities you need in your industry, in your business, and promote them. So I would recommend that if you're starting and you're young and you have resources, universities such as MIT are providing free courses for people wanting to get started. There's a lot of free content out there. So we don't need to have a high income to start to learn. You just need to be disciplined about it. And if we are disciplined, we can learn on our own. I'll be sharing information with you on social media about the game and what we've been doing, and you'll see the graphics. The entire team is really excited about the dragon animation, for example, and that it's being produced in El Salvador. That's a huge deal that you got that opportunity to create that video game, and that's an excellent example of a success story of a service provider in technology services in Latin America that is working with international, very high-level international clients. So I commend you for that. That is excellent. That's quite an achievement. I think we are about to wrap things up, but Eliana, we wanted to truly thank you for your time and for your generosity today, sharing not only your time, but your experiences with all of us. This is truly inspiring to see what you have been able to do in El Salvador. And I think that this is really a message you've given us, that we need to prepare ourselves not for what's coming, but for what's here, because VR and AR are already here. So that's not a bad thing in and of itself, and it shouldn't scare us. It's just a matter of learning, teaching ourselves, and figure out how this can fit into our businesses and in helping them grow. Sure, don't be afraid. Start now. And we'll see what happens with 5G and what decisions our leaders make, but let's be ready. And if processes became faster, if we had information handy, that would be great. Don't forget that technology is crucial. You need to include it. You need to use it if you're going to be innovative. Our cell phones have become our offices, now our virtual offices. If you don't have a laptop, that's what you do. So don't be afraid of it because it's already happening. Well, thank you very much, Ileana. Ileana from Vertex Studio. You have her information on the event website. Thank you very much for our participants. Don't forget our next session today at 3 o'clock on automation. It'll be extremely interesting. So thank you, and we'll see you at the next session.